Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo and more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.
This is Griffin Conan. You're watching Fish on First Live.
Hello and welcome to this edition of FOF Live presented by About the Fans. As always, you can check out the FOF merch collection on About the Fans, and you can get 10% off your order with the promo code FOF10 at checkout. And we have a great live stream for you guys watching here tonight. Packed house. You have myself, Daniel, the host. We have Kevin, Eli, Alex Carver. We have Isaac, and joining us from Marlins City, Gianmarco Ranalli. Gianmarco, it's great to have you on. You ready to talk some Marlins Braves?
Thank you. Yes, I am. Let's go.
Yeah, before we get into starting talking about the Braves series coming up, let's talk about the prior series with the Marlins, and that is up against the New York Mets. Their first time seeing Juan Soto. Did not fare as well as the previous series for Miami, but they did fall to the Mets 2-1. Kevin, I want to start with you. Your review, your takeaway, your biggest takeaway from this series against the Mets. As you see, Hector, only one who got the MVP right.
I mean, I think it's right there. Pete Alonso gets to the Marlins in game one with the grand slam, and then in the final game against Calvin Fauché, who hadn't allowed a home run, in all of 2024, takes them deep when they were up 4-1 with a 3-run shot to tie it, and then they win it in extras. So, tough one there for sure. Those that first and third game. Second game was fun. I think Stowers went deep in that one. If not, it was the third game. But overall, I mean, Sandy was awesome again. A lot better than his first start. Wish he would have gone maybe one more, but looks like they're really trying to limit him at least early on. He'll take the ball again on Sunday against the Braves in the finale. And yeah, Cal Quantrill's debut was not very good up until it was pretty good through the first maybe couple innings, and really just began to struggle and kind of come to that first moment where outside media is doubting what the manager did there. They had Vinny Ziano warming up to face potentially Soto, and Clayton McCullough wanted Quantrill out there. He wanted to go with his starter, and Soto worked the full count walk, and then that's when Pete Alonso hit the grand slam. So yeah, tough one there for sure. Marlins really should have taken 2 out of 3 if it wasn't for Fauché kind of falling apart there at the end. And but look, they have a good opportunity against the Braves, probably catching them. Many may say at the best time, but probably at the worst time. A team as hungry as the Braves looking for a win, they have a good shot to do it against a Marlins team that is kind of meddling there and maybe kind of starting to fall back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah. We need to spend another moment on Sandy just because of it was an effective outing, but his fastball velo was. Yeah. I did this research right. It is the lowest in any game since his rookie year. He's the guy that was consistently throwing harder and harder leading up to his Tommy John. Somebody that on a normal day he sits 98, tops out at 100. And this one he was topping out at 98. He was sitting about 95, around 95, 96. But even for him, it's just notably lower than it used to be. He acknowledged how tired he was after the fact. To fast forward, he is making his scheduled start in this series on normal rest, so they don't really have serious injury concern. That's the reason why it was also such a short outing from him, and I think that's good managing. It was unconventional because that was the quickest hook that he's gotten in several years as well, even on days where he wasn't effective. I think that's the way that you have to manage it. Some days your guy just doesn't have it, even if they get results. Like if you could tell that they're off their game, there's reason to think that, well, this is not the day that we ride him as deep as we can. This is the day where if we're trying to win in what was a pretty close game, in that middle one, to go to the pen. So I think that was in this short season. I think that was a pretty clearly effective managerial move that McCullough has made. Kevin touched on the Quantrill decision. That one was a lot more controversial, that you could go either way. But yeah, I just want to point to that, even though thankfully it seems to have been a false alarm, given that Sandy's going to make his next scheduled start.
Yeah, Isaac, John Marco, your guys' thoughts on this series? Sandy getting the win, and then ultimately falling the entire series. Like Xavier Curry having to get that start, and Cal really having maybe, I don't want to say disappointing, but maybe should have gotten taken away a little bit earlier than what he did.
Yeah, I think Brian is right. They performed a lot better than I thought this series was going to go. I know I had them to win 2 out of 3, but boy, they really had that second win in the bag. Obviously, until Fauché, like Kevin mentioned, and then they had multiple opportunities in extra innings to win that ball game and put it away. But Eric Wagman just wasn't able to put the ball in the air when he needed to, and a couple of weird base running decisions there in the game. So that cost him that rubber match on Sunday or whatever, Wednesday. I'm sorry. But yeah, the Sandy thing was a little bit worrisome. When you hear your ace say that he was tired and that obviously he's coming back from Tommy John, and when you hear him say that he wasn't able to recuperate as quickly as he usually does, he had a full off season, a full spring training, you'd assume that these wouldn't be the issues he has anymore. But nevertheless, like Eli said, it was the right move to get him out of there at 70 pitches, 5 innings. He got the win, first win since September of 2023. I'm very, very intrigued to see how he responds on Sunday against the Braves. He's historically had some issues pitching in this ballpark against this lineup. Obviously, they're not at full strength right now, but still, it's going to be really fascinating to see how Sandy comes back. He did make it seem like he still had 97, 98 in his back pocket when he needed it, but this was just one of those days where it was 94, 95 just to get through it, and if he needed it, like I said, he could reach back for a little bit more. But I'm very intrigued to see what happens on Sunday.
And I'm glad
I think one thing to call out that hasn't been mentioned yet, and yes, I know Sandy's going to be the topic of conversation, which he should be, but I think and Quantrill and how he struggled and everything, but in that game, Lualbert Arias made his major league debut and was fantastic, great. I thought he could have debuted last year. I thought he should have debuted last year. I had him in the call-up contest. I thought he should have debuted last year. Didn't do it. And now Eli has him, and of course Eli takes him away from me, but that's okay. He was really good. 3 innings and 1 strikeout and nothing else. That slider, he kind of lived off a slider, which is really good. Has a good changeup too, decent fastball. So 3-pitch pitcher that can go bulk innings. Save the bullpen. I mean, literally save the bullpen. That's amazing. A great debut for Arias. I hope we see more of this guy because I think he's good.
I thought you were going to mention Connor Gillespie. Connor Gillespie.
Yeah,
so I'll give him a quick shout out too. But and I'm glad Isaac mentioned Sandy's comments because that's one thing I wanted to touch on, and it's just the way that they prepared these guys. And Isaac, we've spoken about this, and up in that press box too. And I kind of mentioned in our chat, just like I don't think they prepared these guys the right way. At least they, to the fullest of extent. Like when your guys are going 1 inning in their first spring training start, that's a little worrisome. At least for the starters. I mean. And it's showing. I mean, Max Meyer wasn't even able to complete 6. No one else was able to surpass 5. Sandy didn't, saying he's tired, and Sandy's a little different, but you're saying he's had a long time to recover from this thing, and he's not able to pass 5. Quantrill looked like he just got completely burnt out at the end, and that's not totally on him. They should have taken him out earlier, but still, I mean, it showed. I mean, and I don't know. I think that the way that these guys were prepared certainly wasn't the best. But they know what they're doing. They know more than us. But just, I don't know. You probably should have had them start at least going 2 innings and building up from there. No guy went 6 innings in a single spring training start, for what it's worth.
Right, and what makes it even more head scratching is that they were so innovative. First day of spring training, first day of pitchers and catchers, right away they're doing live BP. Oh my gosh, right away, live batting practice, right away, and yet they're doing 1 inning in their Grapefruit League debut. With Max, I don't know. He's never shown the ability to go deep into a game, so I don't know, but. You have guys like Gillespie who might, let him stretch out. Who cares what happens unless it's an analytical decision. But, yeah, I do not see a reason why, especially with how quickly the pitchers took spring training before Grapefruit League games began, why they're going 1 inning, a measly 8 pitches for some in their Grapefruit League debut as starting pitchers like Belloso and Gillespie and Sandy and Meyer. And Cabrera as well. I don't understand. Weathers too. Every single one of them was 1 inning only, no matter how many pitches they threw.
Yeah, and the pitch count didn't matter, right? So it was like it wasn't a pitch count thing. It was just an inning thing. Like you're limiting innings in spring training. Like you're not limiting pitches. You're limiting innings in spring training. It didn't make sense. So
remember the Robbie Snelling start? Like he threw like 5 pitches and that was it.
Right, I know, but then you have other guys who are throwing 25, 30. You know, it's like,
Exactly.
That was an interesting decision. I think
and it's starting to bite him back right now. Like you look at it, like Quantrill got burnt out, Gillespie got burnt out in that first start, Sandy was getting burnt out on opening day. It's not working. It didn't work. I don't know what they're gonna do next time, and it looks like they're still having them on some sort of limit because I think Gillespie went 5. So I mean, it's
Let me ask
and they're burning the bullpen because the Marlins, outside of the Dodgers and the Cubs, who started their season a little bit earlier, I think now they're third in bullpen innings pitched, and that was a big cause for the roster move early on with Beozo getting sent down and all of that, and they played it out pretty well because now they don't need a 5th starter up until the Mets series. So it's definitely a little stressful to see their bullpen getting overworked as much as it has, this early on.
Let me ask you really quickly. You just mentioned perfectly, Kevin. Thanks for the setup. I want to ask you guys about Clay McCullough and how do you think he's maybe handling the pitching situation and the bullpen, whether it's the starters or the bullpen, how they're coming up, maybe how many pitches he wants these guys to go when you're taking them out, the situation. I know it's super early into the season, but how would you guys, I don't want to say review or just look at how Clay McCullough is handling the pitching, whether it's the bullpen or the starters? How do you think he's faring so far?
I think the main one that gets me, honestly, is the thing with what's his name, Quantrill. That inning where he's at 80 plus pitches with the bases loaded and no outs against the Mets, that is, and he had a reliever ready to come into the game and just lets the game go away by leaving him in the game. I didn't get it. That I don't get. I mean, you got to have a quicker hook there. This guy was obviously struggling. He was obviously on his way out of the game. You have a reliever ready in the bullpen. It's a lefty, and you have a righty Quantrill on the mound, so you're not even playing the matchup. I don't get that. You can't just leave a guy in there this early in the season to be fed to the wolves, kind of in that regard. That was a bad decision to me. The 1 inning thing in spring training, that's a bad decision to me. As Kevin said, the Marlins are kind of paying for it now. They were ready to let them go into live at bats first day of spring, but you can't go more than 1 inning. That's interesting to me. So yeah, I think the management so far, I think he's learning, but I think he's had learning mistakes. The Quantrill one really sticks out. He should have been taken out of that game for sure.
And one thing Isaac noted is just when they came out to talk to Quantrill in that game, because you have Juan Soto coming up to the plate, and you don't come out to talk to your guy who's struggling. You trying to find a way to get it through it, and then you let him load the bases, and that's when you bring out Daniel Moscas comes out to talk to Pete Alonso, and he gives up the grand slam. So yeah, that's the only other thing, and that's something that Isaac noted that day, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that was a rough one by McCullough, and then obviously the decision with Sandy was a little interesting too, which I guess he was tired, not much you could do there. And if Sandy of all people is telling you I can't keep going, I mean,
yeah. I wanted to ask you, John Marco. We'll go away from the pitching and maybe go away a little bit also from the Mets series. But it seems like maybe the biggest struggle right now for the Marlins has been that first base position. Jonah Bride, Matt Mervis, Eric Wagman. I believe you put all their numbers together. Let me see here. I believe the highest OPS, I think, is Jonah Bride, or it might be Wagman at a solid 588 OPS. What are you seeing here, John Marco, from the first base position? Jonah Bride has an OPS of 337, Wagman 588, Mervis 381. Just what is happening at this first base position for the Marlins?
It seems that through spring progressed and they got excited as Mervis started spring pretty hot, and then the trend continued from the end of spring for Mervis and everything went downhill. Jonah Bride should have been a much more impactful factor through the first 7 games, and he has been probably their worst bat.
No, it's been Mervis. It's been Mervis. It's been Mervis by far.
I mean, they're both.
Mervis has hit the ball harder, so I don't know. And
they're both
Wagaman, he had that 1 homer in a very low leverage spot, and other than that, it's been ground ball display and a chase display. They haven't really gotten much at all from any of those positions, and now they've, as well as the Norby injury, your corners are completely decimated, and your best chance right now in the corners is Graham Pauley, who's starting his 4th straight game at third base today, including facing a lefty He faced Peterson. He played the whole Mets series, and he's playing today too. And they're putting him in rough spots because they're getting just no contribution at all from first base. And even at times, they're getting their best contribution this year has been from Fortes and probably Kona and Stowers.
Yeah, I wanted to pull this up
because I thought that
I want to show this. This is the lowest production from first baseman. It's a crazy small sample size thing because across the league, first basemen are hitting 190 with a 592 OPS. First baseman all across baseball. I did not realize that. They've been terrible. It's a league-wide problem. This is the Marlins who don't have an extra base hit from guys when they play first base. They're still better than those handful of teams ahead of them in terms of WRC plus. There are a bunch of teams. I didn't realize this. It doesn't mean that this isn't a problem, but it means that there's actually a handful of teams that had the exact same issue on first base, or even the guys you mentioned. Some of their only good moments came when they're actually a DH. Wagaman's home run came when he was a DH. It turns out nobody has hit a homer while playing first base for the Marlins so far this season. I just found that kind of interesting that across the league there's been this just awful production from first baseman to this point.
Yeah. Carver with the first base, we're seeing right here all these stats. If the answer in this Marlins organization for first base, or is it? I know it's early, but are these three guys the answer throughout the rest of the season? Do you just wait and see, or by the time we get into June and these guys still aren't producing, do you make a call up to somebody?
No, the answer is not in these three guys. I'll tell you that for a fact. The answer is Davison De Los Santos. Who is in AAA. That's the answer. That's one of the hardest hitting bats in all of minor league baseball. I think he will be one of the hardest hitting bats in all of Major League Baseball once he is called up. If he produces to start the year, I don't think it will be much long after the deadline to where they can save the extra year of control that he will be up and will be starting every game at first base. And then Mervis, Wagaman, I would guess Wagaman would probably go down. Mervis would stay up. I don't know. It's interchangeable. But Mervis being a lefty, it'll probably be him that stays. So, yeah, I think De Los Santos is the answer. I think he will be the answer before long. I think this is just biding time. So, it sucks to see these guys kind of struggle to start out of the gate. But I don't think the Marlins see either one of these guys as a long-term answer at first base.
It's not like Davis has gone off to a great start either. I mean, he's striking out like crazy over there in Jacksonville.
That's part of his game too, and it's been one series. So
of course,
wait to see.
While Carver is talking, and we'll revisit this shortly. The Low A Jupiter season opener started about 8 minutes ago, and Carter Johnson drives in the first round.
After Dylan had singled and stole second base, and probably would have stole third base on a hit and run.
That's actually a great setup, Eli. I mentioned opening day. Lineups were announced for the Marlins affiliates, their rosters, their pitching matchups. We'll get into the pitching matchups for today, but let's look at the lineups for the Sky Carp Jupiter and then the Wahoos. Talk to us here. Carver, Kevin, I want you guys to go forever on this. I want you to give me your best stuff. First off, to everyone, the best lineup between these three. Which one, if you had to pick to only watch one, which is the one to watch? Maybe you're telling the audience, hey, keep your eye on this affiliate.
I think you want Carver and I?
We have the same.
Carver and I to talk?
Yeah.
Carver and I.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Me and Kevin have the same opinion, but I'll let Kevin go. Go ahead,
Kevin.
I was gonna say this. Are you sure you want Carver and I to talk? Because we've done 2-hour podcasts on just the minor leagues. But no, I mean, I think Carver and I will have the same answer. It's Jupiter. That's by far the best lineup from top to number 7 in the lineup. Unfortunately, I'm not very interested in Victor Ortega, Jacob Jenkins-Coward, and Nick Brink. But I mean, yeah, Eli said it. Johnson with the first RBI, Valor with the walk. Salas, I'm surprised that he's in center. Would have expected Dylan Head to be there. And I'll be interested to see what happens when they bring back PJ Orlando into the fold of things. At that point, I would assume maybe Carver, you would agree that Head or one of those guys will already be up in Beloit by then. But yeah, interesting choice with Salas, at least, to put him in Jupiter, because it's not that he can't be there. I'm sure he can, but if they want to put him at shortstop, and every indication we got was that they wanted him at shortstop, you would have thought he would be at FCL, but he's in Jupiter, and I'm sure if he maybe starts to struggle early on and really just looks overmatched, which I don't think that'll be the case because of just the experience in other leagues that he has. Maybe they'll put him at FCL, but for now they'll put him there, and that's how highly they think of him. And Carver, I know you're talking to someone. They described them as a super utility, where he's going to play a little bit of everywhere, play some second, and I don't see he shouldn't be playing short with Kaba there, but maybe if Kaba gets an off day or something. But yeah, this is a fun lineup, really fun lineup. The pitching is a little weaker than it was in years past. I'm excited to see what kind of Benitez got. So with who's the other one? Dishman, I think he's in this level. So yeah, a couple guys there who should be fun to watch, and I'll let Carver talk about the other. Yeah,
I want to hear from Carver and John Marco on the rest of these lineups.
Yeah, I have similar thoughts. I would say the weakness. I would say the level that I'm most excited about is Jupiter. Sharing that belief with Kevin. I think their weakness is catcher. I don't really think either one of the catchers that they have are typically going to be high ceiling major league players, and Carlos Sanchez and Victor Ortega. But hey, that's why they play, and that's why they go out there and try to prove something. Abraham Ramirez, another guy that they got, I think is really, really good for this level. I think he's going to be fun. That rotation, I thought Kiner and Elias Dishmay could have started at single A advanced. They held them back. I think they'll be quick to move up. Once FCL season starts, you'll have guys there that push their way too. Juan De La Cruz, I think that's the ace of this. Even though it's Nick Brink today, I think Juan De La Cruz is the ace of this rotation. I think he's really, really good. I think that's the best starting pitcher on this team, stuff-wise. Maturity-wise, he has a little ways to go, but I think stuff-wise, Juan De La Cruz has the best stuff in this rotation. That guy's really good. What else you got? Yes, the Salas thing. Coach W said it last night. I wasn't there, but I heard that he described Andrew Salas as a super utility player, meaning they think that he can play wherever they need him to, which is just going to be great for his growth. I agree with Kevin. If he's proving that he should stick at this level, I don't think they will send him down. But if he's proving that he's overmatched, maybe he'll go back to FCL when FCL starts. But I do like that they're working continuously to get him work very early in his career. They sent him to early camp. He was in Jupiter all throughout minor league camp, and now he's in Jupiter to start. So just getting that workload in, I think, is really important. Dylan Head, the more he can play all three outfield spots, the more it's going to help him. Valor is a stud. You guys know how I feel about him. Orlando on the 7-day. We'll see what happens when he comes back. Ian Lewis, hopefully this is the breakout year for Ian Lewis. I don't know how he's going to fit in, especially with so many infielders here. Salas, Kaba, Johnson. I don't know how he's going to fit in. I think maybe it's more of a depthier guy that they're viewing now because of the missed time, but maybe he can come back and prove that he's going to be the guy we all thought he could be in years past. I just think that missed time is really going to hurt him. Ural Martinez, that guy is a huge, huge, huge power bat. I'm interested to see how he fits in as well. I'm excited to see that bat. Defense needs work, but I'm interested to see that bat because he has huge power potential. So keep that name in mind. A lower down guy, not a guy that a lot of people are going to talk about. But Ural Martinez has huge power potential. Still such a young kid. I like that guy too. So this is a really fun, really young team. And I think it's only going to get younger as the season goes along because I think guys like Eliazar and Kiner Benitez and maybe even some of those draft guys, Faraday, some of these guys, Aiden May, when he comes back, he's on the 60-day, but maybe when he comes back, we'll see what happens with him. Waylon, guys like that, I think could even go up to make room for some of these younger kids that are in the FCL when they start. So this is a fun team. I think it's young and only going to get younger. So this is a really, really fun squad to watch. Carter Johnson too. Like, where are they going to put him? Third base? I don't know. What are they going to do? There's so many questions about this roster already, and we're just not even a game in. So this is a really fun team. It's going to be a level to watch all year. And I think a level that a lot of the Marlins future stars will come from. And I think you're going to see the baseline of that this season as we start off on.
And I want to shout out Jake Faraday because that guy at the Yankees exhibition game was dotting 100. Like that was impressive to see. It was like 99, 100, 101. I was like, wow, like this dude is throwing gas. Like, and if he continues to do that, I don't know if he's probably a reliever, but maybe I know he was one of the guys that the Marlins were really high on in the late rounds of the draft. They paid a little. I think they went just a bit overslot for him. Actually, I think he's from Arkansas. Yeah, that dude is good. I think he's going to be really good. We'll see how long he'll be in Jupiter for. And he's obviously a little old for the level. So maybe at some point this season he gets an early promotion. But yeah, I'm excited to see Faraday, just see what he's got if that velo maintains and what that looks like, and more game action.
Yeah. Because we mentioned with Faraday, he hasn't had a lot of run in college. I believe it's just 15 total innings in his college career. So that's a guy that he's just scratching the surface with what he can do. I want to go ahead and talk about Beloit, just really on the fact that with Beloit, the name that really sticks out, I'm sure if everyone has to watch this one player, that's Thomas White, easily the best prospect for the Marlins, top 100 player. But in Beloit, maybe going into this season, a lot of us thought maybe he'll go to Pensacola to really go there and show what he can prove, but yet he's doing Beloit again. Carver, Kevin, Eli, John Marco, whoever wants to jump on, with Thomas White going to Beloit again, is this a good thing, a bad thing? Just what does it mean to have a top prospect? You have someone who, eventually make an impact sooner rather than later, redoing high A, or at least not putting him up to double A, where he can maybe prove a little bit more and improve on some of his stuff there with some better competition.
Well, I'll let somebody else make the point. I'll let somebody else talk, maybe Eli or Kevin or John Marco, whoever wants to talk.
Yeah, whoever.
The only thing I'll add on this is that I know for a fact from people that I've talked to is that this was something that came down to the last day of spring training. This came down to this decision specifically where to start Thomas White came down to the last day of spring training. Everything I heard said that they were going to start him in Pensacola, and it turns out they're sending him back to Beloit. So the reasons for that we'll have to ask, but this was a decision that came down to the very last day and hours of when they had to decide where they're going to sign players.
Well, you weren't the only one, because even MLB Pipeline reported that he would go to the Double-A, which made sense. This makes no sense. He has nothing to prove in high A Beloit. Absolutely nothing. I don't get it at all. This is not a bad move, but it's just like one that doesn't make much sense to me. Thomas White shoved in Beloit. I don't know if they just want him to stay with Noble, which as cool as that would be, it just doesn't make much sense. If the guy needs to develop and has an opportunity to potentially debut at the major league level in September for the Marlins, you got to let him do that. You got to let him start in Beloit and Pensacola. I'm sorry. Now, again, that Pensacola Wahoo's pitching staff is stacked. It's Dax, has Jake Miller, it has Robbie Snelling, has really good pitchers in there. Thomas White should have been a part of that, regardless. I don't get it. Not a move I agree with. And as Carver said, it really does look like this came to the wire, because Thomas White, it looked like everyone assumed this dude was going to start in Double-A Pensacola, and potentially, you're talking about the end of the year and you're saying, man, this guy's shoving, he's pitching really well. Can we see him make a start or two, with the Marlins? But unfortunately, they seem like they don't want to be as aggressive with him. They want to take it slow with Thomas White. And I guess fair enough. Maybe you want to get a couple more looks, but this guy won't be lasting too long in Pensacola. In Beloit. He will be in Pensacola in about a month or two, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
The crazy thing too about Thomas White is the Marlins have started him back-to-back spring breakout games, and he has struck out 3 guys in an inning the first one and 2 innings in his spring breakout this year. And there were numerous reports of even his velo going up, and he had much more control on his breaking ball, and he really liked it, and you clearly saw. I don't know how much sense it would make to keep him in Beloit, but that's what they're going to do. I also want to touch on Double-A. I know you mentioned their rotation was stacked. Their bullpen is also stacked once again. They have, I think their 2 headliners was Belgrave and Eknes. Once again, they have Rule 5, Ricky DeVito, and they're also. And Zach McCambly turned into a full-time reliever. He's there now. I don't think that Eknes should have started in Double-A either. I think they give him a lot of springtime, and I thought he fared much better than his numbers showed, and I think he should have started in AAA. Other than, if you want to touch on the Double-A roster, it is definitely going to be fun seeing Mac, Alderman, and Cerna at the top of that lineup, and you hope you can get something going with the bottom of that lineup.
Yeah, that's an interesting roster. Outside of like a couple guys on the position player side, this is a pretty not great roster, I would say.
The Joe Mack show, basically.
Yeah, essentially. Joe Mack, Kemp Alderman, and Jared Cerna. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Maybe some Nathan Martorella. see what Cody Moore said, if he could bounce back a little bit with some more consistent playing.
You say his name and Isaac appears.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see Ricky DeVito. It's a stud.
It's a stud.
Josh
Yeah.
Ekman.
But they're setting it up too. I mean, it's not that they held guys back. I don't think it's that they're setting it up. They're setting it up for when Augustin gets called up, they can call up Joe Mack to play at AAA. They're setting it up to where when Davidson De Los Santos gets called up, you know, they can call up Kemp Alderman to play first base. So they're setting up those subsequent moves that we expect to see later in the season. So I don't disagree that some of these guys probably could have started in AAA. Eknes is kind of my main one, but yeah, I mean, Eknes, he's a stud. He's going to be a closer. He's a stud. Anyways, that guy's really good. But no, I think that especially on the position player side of things, they're setting it up to where when they are ready to call up those guys, you know, once that deadline passes where they can save the air control because their clock's not started, those guys like Alderman and Augustin and a couple of those other guys that are there, they can be called up to AAA, and it's basically natural progression. So the depth is there. They know it. They see it. It's just going to be a question of what happens at the major league level when those guys are ready. But I don't think it's going to be a problem.
I think also on the pitching side, it kind of feels like AAA is like a glorified taxi squad. So just with the guys in that rotation and even in the bullpen, quick guys who, you know, if you need them, you'll have them make the quick drive down to Miami and whatever that may be. Because, I mean, Robbie Snelling should be in AAA if it's my call. For example, Eknes as well. Who else there? I mean, God, Zach McCandless feels like he's repeated double like 3 times already, and that's it's injury.
I can't get over
Can I get all the lineups really quickly.
All right, I just want to point. I can't get over how Dalvy Rosario is still here. He's the longest tenured guy in this world. I need to double check this.
In the whole organization.
I think he was signed in 2017. He started playing minor league games in 2018. They must have like signed him to a new contract. Still have him in the organization. He should have been a minor league free agent. He's not coming off a good year. He's coming off back-to-back poor year. I don't want to like bully him, but that's they must really highly regard his intangibles because the tangibles.
Wasn't he in the Arizona Festival too?
He was an emergency. You're right. He was an emergency addition to their AFL team in the fall too. He actually replaced Kemp, right? Because Kemp had to leave. He got married in his honeymoon. Coincided
like 4
with
games.
The ball league, and I mean,
after he hit like 6 home runs, first week of the season,
he was like, "I'm done.
So yeah, just to reiterate what was mentioned, this is a pitcher-heavy roster for Pensacola, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I mean.
Jacob Miller is a stud. Dax Fulton is a stud. Josh Eknes is a stud. Ricky DeVito, I think, is a stud. Robbie Snelling is a stud.
Carver, are there any underrated studs? Any guys who have stud potential?
Josh Eknes is an underrated stud because nobody thinks about him.
Is he underrated at this point?
He is. He still is. I mean, we have him at number 30. I think he should be higher. Anyway.
Yeah, if I could be my own underrated guy, at this point, I feel like Martorella has become underrated because of how slow he started last year. I remember breaking it down. He was awful for like the first 2 months of last year. And then for as bad as he was equally excellent for the second half of last season in terms of both power and discipline and everything. So he's repeating the level. His value is all in his bat, but I think the bat could be pretty decent right there. So, yeah, I still have my eye on Martorella, even though he's just outside our top 30 list right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he forces his way back in relatively soon.
I saw the comment. Johnny Olmstead, that's an underrated stud. He's never put up a WRC plus under 100, and I know he's been old for some levels, but let's see what happens. He's going to play. And this isn't a star-studded lineup by any means. I saw the comment. Johnny Olmstead, USC Trojan alum. We'll see how it goes. He had a 137 WRC plus and 26 games at the AA level last season. Let's see.
27.
I think the main one is DeVito. His control is pretty not great. But I mean, the guy throws 99 100. So if he can figure out control, that guy is going to be.
Who on this roster is going to be the first to make their major league debut?
No, so here you go. The polar opposite of Ricky DeVito, complete opposite. My boy Luis Palacio is going to make his major league debut this year. I'm telling you, he was so hittable last year, and but he is going to be one of the guys that's not going to walk anyone. He's going to give up 10 hits per 9, but he's going to be the one guy that throws 150 innings in the minor league season, and I think he's going to get a chance at AAA for sure. He's going to be useful. I'm telling you, like He's left-handed Valente Belloso. Let's see it.
Surprised.
What
James
about year
Sasaki is
6
once
of Evan
again-
Fitterer in the Marlins organization?
Evan Fitterer, bro.
James Sasaki's repeating Double-A for like the 5th time too. Jeez.
What about Dale Stanovich? You know,
That's a stud.
we've seen him a bit in spring training. Him even coming after
It's
Sandy.
a good lefty. Rule 5
Barber, I
lefty.
know we
My guy.
heard on a stream that Dale Stanovich had a potential to even make the Marlins opening day roster.
I thought he did. Yeah,
What the
I
hell?
did. They need
What in
lefties.
the-
They don't have lefties. They need
What in the
lefties.
world does this AAA Jacksonville bullpen look like for all these bullpen guys to be? Oh my god.
If they need a lefty, and you know they need lefties, so if they need a lefty quickly, I think that guy is one of the first ones.
I think he could be the first one to make his.
Yeah, I think that he will be.
Yeah, Stanovich was with the Marlins up until the very end. It seemed like 'cause he was there for the exhibition game as well for the Yankees. So
Yeah, but that's not because he and Rooney got cut at the same time. Pretty.
yes, they were one of the final cuts though. He was there for necessity.
I think that this is make or break year, by the way, for my guy McCambly. I love that guy. He's so cool. Great,
Extremely
dude.
good
Looks
looking,
good
too.
physically. He had a gruesome injury last year, a really bad injury last year, where he's telling me and Kevin about it. He tore all of the muscles off of the bone, like the area that connects his pelvis to his thigh. Like it was horrible. So I mean, he had surgery. He's back. Again, there's a lot of question marks, but if you want a dark horse guy that could come back and impress people, I give it to Zach because he's a stud. I really like him.
I feel bad for him. That guy's gotten super unlucky in his career, man. Last year he got up to a nice start and just gets injured, and years before that too. It sucks. It really does. But yeah, I agree.
We
he
can
could
keep
be a solid
going
rotor reliever.
and talking about minor leagues. If you guys want to, we can keep going for another 10 minutes or so, but we do have to come up and talk about this series. I know. If we want, we can go all night talking about Josh Palacios and Dale Stanovich and
Luis
and
Palacios.
Everybody, all the Palacios. But let's talk about this Marlins series going up against the Braves. The biggest storyline here is how the Braves are now 0-7, winless, suspensions, injuries. It just seems like it's not the same lineup that has just been conquering the division these last couple years. Eli, Jurickson Profar gets a suspension. Brian De La Cruz is now on the Braves. It seems like Ronald Acuna is still on the IL. It's not the same Braves that won that World Series just a few years ago, with maybe not even those same Braves from last year. What is wrong with the Atlanta Braves to start 0-7? They're looking like how the Marlins did last year to start early on into the season.
Yeah, they really have been to this point. Last remaining winless team. I don't think it's that big a deal. The long story short of it, they did have, you'd have to say, the hardest stretch to begin the season of any team schedule-wise, to be on the road against the Padres and the Dodgers to start the season back-to-back like that on the West Coast. That's as tough as it gets to begin with. They have been unlucky when it comes to situational hitting. They only have like 2 hits with runners in scoring position out of 30-something at-bats. So it's just insanely unclutch in those situations, and therefore they've unsurprisingly lost some close games because of that difference. That's a part of it. The thing is, as you mentioned, that there are things popping up that make you wonder how much can they correct for this as the season goes on. If they're going to be missing Profar for half the year and then questioning how good Profar actually is once he returns, given that he's coming off a career year that seems to have been buoyed by PEDs. That's a big question. And it's a huge hole that's open right now for their current team. So I'm not really concerned about the hole they've dug for themselves because it's such a small sample to this point. They have time to make it up, but they're going to be really reliant on Strider coming back to 100%. He's out for a couple more weeks. He's in the middle of a rehab assignment now, so he should be in the rotation by the end of the month. And then Acuna is shortly behind him, eventually coming back, and we'll see what he does because we've seen the pretty broad range of results that you could get from him, where he's come back from his previous ACL surgery midway through the year. He was very meh. He was a solid player that year, come back from the first ACL injury. And then he followed that up with the amazing record-setting year in 2023. You don't know which Acuna you're going to get from that standpoint. There's then the injury to Reynaldo Lopez, he's already been ruled out for the next 2 months at least with shoulder issues, and he was such a bright spot for them last year. So they're really reliant on. They still have a lot of star players, though. Like, I'm not going to go through the whole roster, but it is a stacked roster, even with these setbacks that they've had. It's just that the National League is really competitive this year. There's only a couple teams that we think are really out of it. One of those was supposed to be the Marlins, and they have pleasantly overachieved to this very early point. So even them are not going to be a total pushover. The key stat is that no team that's ever started like this has ever made the playoffs. I think only it's been decades since any team even finished above 500 after starting off this way. So I think they have a better chance than most of those other teams of turning things around. No doubt, though, things are stressed, and this is a huge series for them because there's a big difference between 0-7 and 0-10. If it's 0-10, losing at home to this Marlins team, then I think that's when the panic really starts to set in.
Yeah. Kevin, what do the Marlins have to do here to maybe, I don't want to say even to try to get away from the Braves? What are you going to be looking at here for the Marlins this series? The Braves could be 0-25, but it's still the Atlanta Braves. It's still the team that's just been on top of this division for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know why it always feels like the Marlins play them well early on the road, but that may just be me. But last year was not good. I mean, the Marlins went 4-9 against the Braves, not great. Thankfully, you have pretty good starters going. You have Max, Kyle hopefully bounces back, and then you have Sandy. You have, as good as a chance to take 2 out of 3. Will they do it? We'll see, because they have Schwellenbach, who's really damn good, AJ Smith-Shawver, who's one of their top prospects, and then Grant Holmes, who torched the Marlins last season. So we'll see how that goes. Their offense is still awesome. I mean, at least the top 5 hitters in that lineup with Riley, Olsen, all these. I'm missing a couple guys there for sure. I mean, you have Drake Baldwin, who's just been extremely unlucky to start his Braves career so far. So, yeah, this is a really good team regardless. Their bullpen has been a little iffy this season. Ozuna, Marlins, I guess Marlins killer, you could say.
Michael Harris.
Yeah, it's a good team. I mean, there's another way to say it. They're at home. This is their home opener. If they have I said this at the start of the stream. You don't want to get the Braves. If you're the Marlins, this is the worst time to catch the Braves. You kind of would have wished they won the game to get that, off of their backs, I guess, is the best way to say it. And they're catching them at the worst time because the Braves they play the Marlins well. No matter when or where, they play them well, and there's a good chance they could take 2 out of 3 or even sweep the Marlins.
Yeah. Eli, I think it's a great time to go into the lineups here and really discuss the Marlins lineup compared to the Braves lineup, who's going to be trying and scraping and clawing to get that first win this season, like Kevin mentioned, on their opening night. So we'll see here between the Marlins and the Braves. You'll see some familiar faces on the Braves. We'll go ahead and quickly touch on the Braves lineup before going deep into the Marlins lineup. Obviously, top guys, Michael Harris, Albies, Ozuna, Olsen, Riley. We get another familiar face with Brian De La Cruz. Drake Baldwin, one of their top prospects coming out of last season. Nick Allen, the top prospect, and Jared Kelenic. Eli, what do you see here from the Braves? We have Michael Harris, Matt Olson, former Marlin Marcell Ozuna, and Brian De La Cruz, who now, after the Jerks and Profar getting suspended for 80 days, seems like will be almost the everyday left fielder in that outfield for the Braves. Maybe even, I don't even want to say until Ronald Acuna comes back, so he might not even he might still DH.
Yeah, what sticks out to me, if you look, it's not color coded because nobody's qualified yet, but the hard hit rate for Drake Baldwin, the rookie catcher, 71.
I'm about to mention that.
That is the elite. He was my pick in our roundtable for National League Rookie of the Year because if nothing else, he's going to get a lot of reps, especially while Sean Murphy is out, and then even when Murphy comes back, he's been so unlucky. The disparity between his expected stats and actual stats, like that expected slugging percentage, 614, would be as good as basically any catcher in baseball to this point. So he's really talented, somebody that his stock has improved a ton in a short time to earn this call up and to be on their opening day roster. He's somebody that's really dangerous despite the pretty minimal results at this point this season. And you touched on Brian De La Cruz, old friend. This is not his first time facing the Marlins because he did at the end of last year with the Pirates in Pittsburgh, but off to a slow start himself. And it's not really luck. There's some luck going against him as well, where his hard hit rate is pretty high, but he's also striking out quite a bit more, 50% strikeout rate in that small sample. So I don't know if the leash is going to be that long for him, even with the Profar setback. But for now, he's in the lineup most of the time in left field for these next couple of games. And they didn't really commit much to him. It was like a split contract in the offseason anyway. We'll see how long he lasts. It is a pretty startling fall from grace from where he was less than a year ago when he was batting in the middle of the Marlins lineup, where he was a slightly above average hitter. And ever since then, with both the Pirates and now the Braves, it's pretty stunning for a guy still in his 20s to now be. This is a huge opportunity for him that he has to capitalize on, no doubt. Other than that, it is a pretty top heavy lineup. Depending on how you feel about Baldwin, I'm still pretty optimistic, but Nick Allen is a glove only shortstop. Jared Kelenic really hasn't hit much since early on last year. And then, aside from that, they're carried by those recognizable names that we all know in that top half. And those guys can do a lot of damage. It comes down to just the situational hitting. As long as they can get some hits with runners in scoring position, as long as they cluster their hits correctly, then it can still be a solid offense, if not an above average offense. They've just not been clustering those hits to this point of the season.
Look at Matt Olson. You talk about expected stats, a 694 expected slugging percentage, and he doesn't have a home run. This team is BABIPing 199, a 199 BABIP for the Atlanta Braves, which will not persist. That it is impossible for a team as a team to be that unlucky, especially when you see these expected stats in front of your face. So this team's going to pop off. I know they started out terribly. It's horrible luck for what should be a very good team that, as Kevin mentioned, will get healthier as the season goes along. This team's going to be a buzzsaw. They're going to take this as fuel, and hopefully it's not against the Marlins in this series, but I think it could be. Hopefully it doesn't start against the Marlins, but this is just a team that's gotten really, really, really horribly unlucky. I think they're going to be fine. They're going to be a top contender in this league and in this division. It's just a matter of time. Just a really, really bad start. Maybe, and I think that they could break that record of teams that start 0-7 that don't make the playoffs. I think that this team could break it. Look at the underlying stats. It's right in front of your face. This is a good team.
Many people even thought that this team was not as good as the Dodgers, but up there, like in that category of where the Dodgers are. And yeah, it's hard for them that to happen. And, they're going up against Meyer tonight, who faced the Braves twice. He's been all right. First time gave up 4, still struck out 7, which I believe is a career high. And then in his second start was at home where he went 6. That was last year at the beginning of the season, where I think that's when they got the win at home, struck out 7, 1 earned run. That was a great start. Hopefully Marlins get that from Max. But again, really good Braves team. Really good Braves team regardless of record. I don't think the record speaks for them for what they've done this season or what this team looks like at least. And Eli and Carver noted that. They're going to get it going. This is a really good team. It's like even that gotten unlucky too, because look at Olsen with the 694 expected slugging. Jesus.
Yeah, just even at 0-7, Fangraphs still gives them a 70% chance to make the postseason. So I think writing's on the wall. It's early. I think they, if they do get it going, as the stats show that they probably will, and circumstances show that they probably will, this will still be a very good team.
Have to win the series. If they want to even, starting 0-10 will be very difficult for the Braves. But I wanted to ask you, really quickly on the Braves. I know they made some moves. They traded for Jason DeLay, another backup catcher. And do they still have Alex Verdugo? Is he on the roster? Has he even played at all? Because I know he's another outfielder there that they have. Is he on the roster right now? Or is he still in
AAA? He got sent down to AAA to get up to speed because of how late he signed. He's the main one coming for DLC's job relatively soon once he gets suited. Yeah. Let me check in. Yeah, he hasn't played a AAA game yet, so I think he's still a couple of weeks away from getting called up. A big fall for grace from him, considering how important he was early on last year for the Yankees, and then total nosedive. But that's a pretty high upside signing, all things considered, if things come together. So I think we likely to see Verdugo at some point this year.
Yeah. Well, now we can go ahead and go to this Marlins lineup. I want to hear from John Marco. What do you see here? It's the usual suspects. You have Stowers, Edwards, Conine, Lopez. We have Matt Mervis, Liam Hicks behind the dish, Jonah Bride, Graham Pauley, and Dane Myers hitting ninth. Is there anything here that really stands out to you, or maybe a specific player that you're saying, hey, this guy either has to pick it up or you have to do something to impress me?
We'll piggyback right back on the previous conversation, and if they get no production from their first baseman / DH this series again, I think you could see a move earlier than most would have expected. We might not get out of April, and we might have a new first baseman by the time we're in May. Matt Mervis has a 35% strikeout rate.
Mm-hmm.
He's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 2 hits. He has 2 hits. And they haven't gotten much from all. I would really like to also add how impressive it is that Kyle Stowers is their best walk rate, considering that his one main hole was those high fastballs that he couldn't handle at all, and he has handled them really well so far this season. I would also like to piggyback on Max Meyer. His last start against the Braves was actually that road one in Truist, where I think, if I'm not mistaken, he gave up 2 homers in the first. I think Albies and Olsen are 95% sure Albies and Olsen hit both 2 in the first. And he definitely needs to rely on his slider. I think it looked really good against Pittsburgh, but I think it's going to be a big challenge for him, especially considering Atlanta has a lot of guys who have seen him so many times and they had the ability to strike fast and early.
Yeah, I mean, when you're saying that they're going to have a new first baseman in May, I doubt that. The Marlins are known to suck out the value of every player. That does not just go back to Peter Bendick. That goes back to many regimes, and Matt Mervis will get an extensive look if we like it or not. Jonah Bride will get an extensive look, and he will probably finish the season with the team unless he is absolutely terrible after the deadline. They will both be here until Davison De Los Santos gets his extra year of control.
I don't want to get too far into that. I'm just saying, Mervis has options left. I do want to point out that Connor Norby took another step towards returning recently. He's taking grounders on the field. He's already been hitting. I think he might only be 2 weeks away from coming back. I think there's a scenario where Norby comes back, depending on Graham Pauley is a big piece in this. If they feel that Pauley, who can also play first base, if they feel that he's a more valuable overall player than Mervis, and Mervis still is one of the weakest links on their roster offensively, who only plays one position. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Mervis is the odd man out a couple weeks from now. But yeah, we'll let that play out. Hopefully Norby continues to progress. I did want to mention that, though, that Norby took a nice step. Could be playing in rehab games a week from now and then returning the following week. So that's obviously a pretty big development right there.
Well, let's remember, Graham Pauley wasn't supposed to make this roster to begin with. So right. I'm just saying that, Mervis was a lock, and they want him to play. They're gonna have him play every day until De Los Santos gets his extra year, and they're not gonna call up Troy. Sorry, Carver. It's at this point it's known they don't have anyone else. And I don't think if Pauley isn't great at third, imagine how he's at first. So. And Pauley didn't play much first base, so he didn't play first base at all this spring. Actually, let's make sure of that.
Let me piggyback you off.
Matt Mervis will be here for a very long time.
Off that, Kevin. If we're talking about Matt Mervis and how much he's struggling, Jonah Bride, who even his expected stats are still in the low 200s. I think that really tells you what they think about Troy Johnston when you're looking at Matt Mervis, Jonah Bride, and Eric Wagaman, who each of them have maybe, I think, an OPS of less than 500. I don't think at any point you're going to see maybe Troy Johnston, even when you have that rotation of first baseman, even they could do so poorly. I think you'd rather stick with those 3 first basemen rather than bring up Troy Johnston. I know it sucks to say we love Troy Johnston, but at this point, it's just you have to see the writing on the wall, and the writing on the wall says he's not going to get any playing time, especially when you have those 3 guys and they're doing as badly as they are right now. They're still getting run. Mervis is still first, Jonah Bride DH, and they might rotate that a bit. But Eli, I want to ask you, when do we start going on Griffin Conine walk watch? How far into his walk rate until he finally? Griffin Conine, his walk rate. When are we ever going to see a walk from Griffin Conine? At what point do we start a walk watch for him?
It's surprising that he hasn't drawn one yet, because that was one of the constants during the minor league career. Like, if you wanted to be optimistic about Conine in previous years, when he was striking out so much, you would say, well, he's offsetting it by drawing a lot of walks, and the differential between them actually wasn't as big as you might think. So I think that's a small sample fluke. I think he will draw walks. I think it goes without saying that he needs to draw some of them because the batting average is always going to be pretty limited with him, with how much he sells out for power. So yeah, they'll need to come around relatively soon. But in the meantime, I think there's no way around it that it's been a very encouraging first homestand for Conine, all things considered, and he'll continue to be in the lineup against most right-handed pitchers moving forward.
Before we get too far and before we go to predictions, I think which is probably coming up here very soon. Just to comment on the last topic of service time manipulation, all that stuff. Like, yes, I agree. I think Mervis and Wagman and whoever else, like those guys, well, at least Mervis and Bride, I think will be here. Wagman, I don't know, but I think that we shouldn't lose sight of how soon service time manipulation kicks in. It's not like that's all year. That's like 16 days, like 2 weeks. After the first 2 weeks of the season, they can call up De Los Santos and save the year of control. So it's not like they have to wait forever, right? I agree with you, Kevin. I don't expect Mervis or Bride to lose their jobs and to get sent down, even though Mervis is the option. I would probably say if it is up to me at this stage of the game, it would probably be Wagaman, but I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do? But we shouldn't lose sight of what Joe Marco is kind of saying is that, it's not too far off. It actually is pretty soon to where they can save the extra year of control. So just so that's known, I do agree with Kevin. I think those two guys will stay here. I think it would probably be Wagaman. Like I said, that would get sent down at this stage of the game. But I think those guys will be here sooner rather than later, as I said before.
In 6 games, Davison De Los Santos has struck out 12 times. Just keep that in there. Okay.
There's performance too. I'm just saying. You said until you can save the year of control. That's not far away.
But why call up a guy if he's going to strike out?
I agree. I'm just saying if you think the only thing holding him back is the extra year of control,
no.
That barrier is about to be crossed. Performance, yes, you're right. Performance has a lot to do with it as well. Is he ready? Right, it's the main thing. I'm just saying the service time thing isn't going to be a barrier for much longer.
Is he better than the current options at that position?
I don't know. To me, right now, I would probably say no. I would need to see a little bit more at AAA. The strikeout rate, I think, is huge. You have guys on this team that strike out a lot already. So not that this year matters. And yes, maybe he could come to the majors and learn a little bit more, but I think he's learning enough at AAA that you could keep him there a little longer.
Yeah.
Well, it's been short. De Los Santos, I don't think he has an extra base hit in Jacksonville either. I think he has 4 singles, 5 singles, and the rest have just been Ks.
Yeah. We'll see what happens there with De Los Santos. But I know what's going to happen here, and we are heading into prediction time. Eli, with the music.
This is prediction time.
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm really good at this.
All right, we are back here in prediction time. For those of you who may be new here in prediction time, we give a prediction for the upcoming series. You can pick either the Marlins to win, the Braves to win, how many games are going to win that from that series, and your MVP can be from either team and do not have to correlate with your pick. It could be a pitcher, could be a batter, or you could be like Eli and pick a reliever that one time. As we can see here from our super subscribers and who they have picked, seems like a solid split down the middle between Miami and Atlanta. We have Miami 3-0 from Saul Goodman. Wow. A little Breaking Bad right there. Chase. I'm surprised Chase. He has Atlanta going 2-1, picking Matt Olson. I'm a little surprised at that with Chase. Come on now. We have a lot of Marcel, Xavier Edwards, Kyle Stowers, Marcel Ozuna, Otto Lopez. So it's very interesting there to see what everyone has. We're still very early to the prediction leaderboard. But Eli, if you get that music going. All right. I would do it, but I don't have the capabilities to start it. So, Kevin, can you start it off? I don't have the controls.
Oh, what? No, there we go. Okay. Well, I'm going to say Braves take 2 out of 3. Don't feel great about that, but I think the Braves played the Marlins well. And I'm going to go with Spencer Schwellenbach taking the MVP tonight.
Ooh. All right, next up, let's go to Carver.
Man, I wish I could go against the crowd here, but I don't think I can. I'm going to go with a couple of those super subs. Like those numbers, those expected numbers for Matt Olson, how unlucky this Braves team has been. I will say that the Braves take 2 out of 3, and that Matt Olson gets what is coming to him in terms of how good those numbers are and gets the MVP.
All right, I'll go next. I know I have this beautiful Marlins jacket on, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Atlanta to win 2 out of 3. Again, like Harper said, the expected stats are just way too much for Atlanta, one of the unluckiest teams in baseball. And I'm going to change up my prediction. I was going to go with Michael Harris, but I'm going to go with the unluckiest player in baseball to have one of the best series of his young career. I'm going to go Drake Baldwin as my MVP. John Marco.
Took Eli's pick.
I know.
I'm gonna follow suit on what everyone's saying, and Braves will take 2 out of 3. And I think the MVP of the series will be Matt Olson. This is unfortunately where he does break out and show, I guess, form of 2023 and past Olson.
All right. Last and certainly not least, Mr. Eli.
Yeah, you sniped my Drake Baldwin pick. I'm picking my guy's MVP for this one as well, which is kind of risky because catchers, even the main catcher, only starts 2 out of 3 during a weekend series. But I think he does enough damage in those 2 starts, maybe off the bench in that other game, for the Braves to win 2 out of 3 in the series and get all the way up to 2-8 on the season, bring the Marlins down to 500. I think all things considered, the Marlins would be pretty satisfied with where they are 3 series into the year if they are at the 500 mark.
Yeah. I'm surprised here no one has said Brian De La Cruz. We are some fake Marlins reporters, fake fans here. Not to go with DLC, but it should be an interesting one. It's always fun when they go against the Braves. Some great pitching matchups here. So go ahead, watch the games, go on TV, watch it, listen to radio, listen to Jack, listen to everyone there. As always, you can check us out on our Twitters, Fish on First. Check out our merch store, About the Fans. And when you do that, get 10% off with your code FOF10. Snap a picture when you order it. Tag us. We'll make sure to retweet, follow you, get all the good stuff out when you have that merch. For myself, Daniel, Kevin, Eli, Isaac, Alex Carver, John Marco, this has been FOF Live. As always, go Fish.
Have a wonderful evening.